For more on where U.S. China relations stand, let's bring in David Riedel. He's an expert in China, of course, president of Riedel Research. David, always great to have you with us.
Thank you.
What do you make of what Trump is saying? I mean, the language out of Beijing, at least overnight, maybe prior to Trump saying that he exchanged letters and they promised him not to send weapons, all of that, was pretty fierce. I mean, you know, President Xi said the world order is crumbling and pointed directly to what was going on in Iran. I mean, what's your take on this whole situation?
Well, I'm going to believe what Beijing is saying a little bit more these days than what we're hearing out of D.C. I think that Beijing is frustrated by this. I think that they don't want the U.S. meddling in what is an important chain of supply for them in terms of oil and energy. They think that the U.S. doesn't have any right to be doing what it's doing. And they're also pitching themselves as the more stable, predictable global partner to some of those allies in Southeast Asia that are really getting hurt by the higher fuel prices.
Hey, David, Tim, so I guess that's where I would go with this, because I saw both in your notes and what we know about China is they've been stockpiling for years, and that they've also diversified into wind, into solar, into nuclear. It doesn't mean that this isn't an incredibly important source of oil for them, but is this more posturing? So we're listening to them, but this is really China, who has a lot of work to do in the region to befriend people that they, you know, and again, it's going to be, I would say, convenient on their part to do it when it makes sense for them. But how much of this is to play the role that you just said, which is we're actually the safe pair of hands around here?
I think it's a very good chunk of it. And it's because I think it gives them more leeway with regard to Taiwan, protecting that what they see as a domestic waterway, the straits between them and Taiwan. I think they can position themselves as, hey, we're the reasonable arbiter. We need to control the global chip supply because, we're the people that can be a reliable someone to rely on for free trade. It's a terrible win that we're giving them in terms of giving them all this diplomatic opportunity to work with some of these potential partners of ours in Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, and places like India.
David, will this administration use Taiwan as a pawn in this entire thing? And if so, if that's the case, is that an existential risk that the market's not pricing in?
You know, I've been concerned for a long time that Xi is going to act on his just lifelong ambition to make sure that happened, the reunification happens under his watch. I think if they were looking for any reason to do it or any okay from the global markets to do it, they've gotten a couple of them in the last few years, Ukraine, and now this war on Iran.
David, it's Karen. From some of the other countries in the Middle East, how much sway or not do they have with Iran?
Very little. I mean, they've really shown that Iran is willing to lash out at anybody. They're not looking for any friends. So they feel confident in their position, and they're not looking for any friendships. So Pakistan kind of coming out as the winner on the diplomatic front, but I think Iran's burned a lot of bridges in the region.
What is the state of the Chinese economy, and what's your forecast if this conflict goes on, if China will actually have to dip into those reserves and whether or not they could insulate themselves to some degree from, a prolonged closure of the strait?
You know, they've spent the last 20 years protecting themselves from any sort of external shocks. They were very surprised by the global financial crisis coming out of the developed world, and they created a fortress economy that really protects themselves from that in a big way. On the energy side, you just heard it, nuclear, wind, power, wind, solar, all kinds of things, in addition to the stockpiles. So they're actually in pretty strong case for their domestic economy. This really becomes an issue for China when it becomes a global recession, when global trade starts to ameliorate. They've diversified their customer base away from the U.S., but very heavy in Europe and in other emerging markets around the world, all of which are getting severely battered by these higher fuel prices. So that's when it becomes a real problem for China, when it's a problem for the rest of the world.
I mean, India is already being hit. I mean, you just came from India, David, and it struck me in the notes that there's a shortage going on in the cans that hold fuel, which is also in short supply.
That's right. It was really shocking to land there in the middle of this war and be there for nearly a week. I was in Mumbai, and I really noticed a lot of panic buying of these cylinders of cooking gas, which are ubiquitous across South Asia. And in India, they've had to put controls on them. They can't let people buy too many of them. A lot of people are actually, poorer people are leaving the cities and going back to their villages because the costs have gone up so much for them to eat eat out of the food stalls and the roadside stalls and so on and so forth that are really their lifeline. So you're seeing millions of people leaving Mumbai, which is devastating for construction sites, which have lost a lot of their workers, as well as a lot of the things that keep the Indian engine running. I was really surprised to see what a big hit India is taking as a result of this war.
So, David, let's cut to the chase on Chinese equities. I mean, it's been a 40% drawdown if you're looking at mega cap China tech, while we're having, we just talked about a renaissance. What are you doing with China tech here?
Yeah, I'm buying the ones that have super strong brand names. I'm buying Tencent and Baidu and these guys that have good domestic positions. I wouldn't want to touch anything in the energy sector because I think that if anyone gets sacrificed by Beijing, it's going to be them. I think you've got to be wary in the banks because I think that there's going to be some credit problems once these higher prices really start to bite. But anyone who has a good defensive and consumer-oriented brand, and a lot of the tech companies are right there, I'd be a buyer.